Hey, good morning. This is Morning Perfect Base. I'm Ben Velding, and I am here working on my perfect Minecraft base. I'm going to be working on this thing every day for a couple of weeks. I'm going to see just how much progress I can make. While I'm doing that, I'm going to be talking about a couple of different things. You can see from the last time that I actually sat down and I drew a lot of stuff and I got these stairs worked out. So, this ladder's a little bit anachronistic now. My goal for this program is, of course, to speak very calmly on a news article just to help you get your day started. I try to be pretty relaxed here and, just have some calm, inoffensive news. If something here seems intriguing to you, if you want to hear more about it, if you want me to get to it in a little more depth and say Minecraft news for adults, go ahead and let me know about that, okay? My first article for the day is the memo. 2 nights ago, the president gave his State of the Union address. It was his standard fare, but a little more cogent and a little more organized. He underlined the dangers he felt immigration in North Korea posed to the United States. No mention was made of his failure to enact sanctions against Russia that Congress had passed. My big takeaway was his statement about government workers, where he called on Congress to remove federal employees who undermine the public trust or fail the American people. That language obviously sets the tone for his firing of FBI officials investigating his ties to Russia. His drain the swamp rhetoric has for a long time have been used to code for that. Drain the swamp has always been poorly coded, dismantle my political enemies. Everyone who isn't with me is part of the swamp. They're corrupt and they're evil. There's a certain presumption of ethical purity on the part of the president in making those sorts of proclamations, and the people who agree with him on those sorts of things, the people who believe that they and they alone are untouched and uncorrupt, and that everyone who opposes them is. This is the reasoning they have used behind all of these accusations. So, as you may have also heard, Representative Devin Nunes, I believe, of the House Intelligence Committee, he wants to publish a memo which accuses the FBI of wrongdoing in the agency's investigation into the president's ties to Russia. The FBI says the memo is flawed, but because they, unlike the committee, cannot authorize themselves to disclose classified information, they can't really refute it. It's an attempt by Republicans to lie about classified information to make one of the FBI sources look unreliable. And no matter how small that lie is, they're going to make, based on the assumption of your ignorance, it sound as if some of it is flawed because part of it is flawed. And again, they're going to say it's flawed. Nunes is going to say it's flawed regardless of the truth, because that's what he wants to believe. That's what he wants you to believe, and he knows no one can prove him wrong. He's already altered the memo from the version the committee voted to release. And all of this plays on the assumption of your ignorance, that you will believe that if some of it is wrong, that all of it is wrong. That if part of this data is incorrect or less than completely accurate, then all of it is. They want you to make that leap, despite the fact that it just isn't there. I try to be neutral, but honestly, this entire issue is infuriating. A Republican wrote in his dream journal that the FBI is acting on faulty data, and he's going to publish that as if it's something. And the only reason to do that is as a pretext for firing the person investigating the president. There's no accountability here. As I said before, drain the swamp is just code for eliminating the president's political opposition. It's strict partisanship, and it's a desperate maneuver from someone who may have broken the law. It seems to me that mainstream Republican thought is now that the only way to save the country is to seize power. They feel that it's an emergency, that our current situation is an emergency, and our country's on the brink. and their party is in full crisis mode, and they feel justified in bending some laws and some norms, maybe work with some harmless oddballs to get what they want done. And that's what the calm, responsible folks at the top think. And honestly, they believe that if they just get rid of a few Democrats, if they twist a few rules, everything's going to be okay when they run stuff. But they don't understand that this is not temporary, because one party can't fix anything. Because you need the full spectrum of American engagement in political life, and that doesn't come from gerrymandering, and it doesn't come from removing all of the mechanisms by which to prevent you from exercising your power irresponsibly. I think this is coming along pretty well. It's one of those big empty Minecraft spaces that I kind of hate, but I'm happy with it. Just let me see here. So anyway, I think I'm trying not to go into a political rant here, but it's not temporary. The ends will not justify the means, and these people are going to bend a few more rules and hire a few more oddballs, and then they're going to tell themselves that they're in charge of everything and they've got a handle on it. But before they know it, the oddballs are going to be running things, and they will have bent all of the rules so much they will have broken everything. I don't know. There's probably more things in this country's history than I know that have been settled by naked political calculation. But I don't want this to be one of those things. I can't simply believe that everything's going to turn out. I want these people to put country over party. Have an investigation. Bring it to the House of Representatives. Let them talk about it. There's nothing... what's wrong with that? If it's a big nothing burger, then let the investigation complete itself. Don't shut it down. Anyway, I'm rambling. The next news article is about a Facebook app for kids. Critics say, reports say that social media is bad for kids. So critics say, hey, are you just peddling a gateway drug for kids? And Facebook says, no, we're making social media but safe for kids. It's the whole, if we expose kids to something in a safe way, is that better, or do we just say abstinence is the best solution? I don't have kids. I don't really have an opinion. I do think that, come on, get that gravel. I think there should be a separate things for kids. I would have hated this as a kid, but there need to be persistent online presences. The days of internet anonymity and corporate anonymity in general need to die. Not to delve into capitalist stuff, but like just the notion that a company does something or buys something and nobody knows who that is. That a company which performs a task is unknown. That there isn't some sort of number that says, hey, look, I represent X and Y company, we're going to do stuff. I would love that. I look for jobs, I speak with companies, I have people agree to things, contracts and whatnot. And if there's a middleman, that's great. They can handle all that stuff. But absolutely, I should be able to, the first thing I see whenever I have a transaction with a company is I should have that company's ID. But I'm getting off the Facebook thing. The real humdinger, even more than the president thing, is Eric Heston Chafee. This is a story from Texas Monthly about an orthopedic surgeon who performed extensive unauthorized medical procedure on his patients for years. By unauthorized, I mean patients did not consent. He just did the stuff. What the fuck? Reading this article, like it's supposed to be a little get you in the feels. It is incredibly effective at that, this article, and it is outrageous. I highly suggest reading this one. I'm not pimping for Texas Monthly or anything. This article's from 2005. Super old, but they called him the worst doctor in American history. He's been sued 78 times for malpractice. He's paid out about $13 million. 5 people have died because of his actions. He was so He's so incapable of performing the basic surgical task of keeping people from bleeding out that the lawyer, admittedly opposing lawyer, described him as using bone wax as Bondo. People lost gallons of blood on his operating table. He used the workman's comp system for blue-collar workers to provide a lucrative business for himself, and to fund repeated surgeries, just so he could get the money for the surgeries to maintain his lifestyle. Unnecessary surgeries that destroyed people's lives, that killed people. As a credit to the insurance companies, and I'm sure a lot of smug libertarians, they got wise to it first. The Texas Medical Board was inactive for years and years. They finally got rid of him in about 2005. He was arrested in 2006 for practicing without a medical license, but those charges were dropped, which is frustrating because you want to see him pay. But no, he's still got millions of dollars. And he's just forbidden from practicing medicine. Lived in mansions, owned a whole shop full of expensive cars. He killed 5 people. Eric Heston Chafee. I don't know. It just seems like it's a good name to know when you're talking about issues with our medical field. Texas Workers' Comp has improved methods. They blacklist doctors now. I actually just wanted to kind of talk about this because it was a good example, I thought, from the headline of the mortgage dilemma, where, a person might buy a house once in their life, and they work with a realtor or a banker who does this for a living, who sells houses all the time. So there's this huge power differential when you're making these life decisions, and I don't like that because you're not on equal ground. You don't know all the things they know. And there's a lot of fees and a lot of things come up. And it's not just mortgages, it's a lot of things in your life. Contractors, people who work on your car. These are people who do these things frequently, and you don't. And there's a big power differential there. And I don't have a solution for that. I'm just sort of pointing that out. I thought this article would be a good example of that, because you go to a doctor or a surgeon, you assume they know what they're doing, but they don't necessarily, and it might not even occur to you in terms of a doctor to think about that. How do you even know? I mean, you can check up stuff for doctors and lawyers online, but anyway, it's a good example of the mortgage dilemma in terms of how hard it is to really know who you're looking for, and how a lot of people don't think of it. It's definitely worth doing if you ever need a doctor or a lawyer. Look those guys up. Do not just assume they're a professional because they have a suit in an office. Finally, I have a little bit about Bill Richardson on the Myanmar panel. You might remember Bill Richardson as one of the Democratic contenders in the 2008 primaries for Democrats. He's former governor of New Mexico. Apparently, he was instrumental. He also served as an ambassador, I believe, during Obama's administration. And I believe he was part of getting, please bear with me through these pronunciations, Aung San Suu Kyi to, the democratically elected leader of Myanmar, to out of house arrest, which she was under for some time, and to become president of Myanmar. Well, recently they had a security crackdown in the Rakhine state. This left about 700,000 Rohingya people, I believe that's how it's pronounced, displaced. They're an ethnic minority in Myanmar. Bill Richardson was on the panel, and the issue of the displaced ethnic minorities was an issue, and as well as 2 reporters who were reporting on that being arrested for possessing secret documents, according to the police, which is one of those specious arrest reporter things. So he left the panel. He accused of cheerleading for the government. He claims he wasn't fired. But, I mean, basically, it's a little disappointing. I mean, I kind of kept up with the Aung San Suu Kyi thing. You want to believe that people in these narratives are either good guys or bad guys. So it's kind of disappointing that someone who was a victim of oppression and who was abused by the government would have more awareness of those abuses. But life is complicated. There's very few good guys and bad guys. So anyway, I think I've got a lot of work done today, more than I expected to get done. These always go really, really quickly. So anyway, if there's something I've discussed here that you'd like to see me discuss in more detail, go ahead and get me at Van Velding on Twitter, or in the comments below. I can't guarantee I'll read the comments because YouTube comments. You have a good morning, and until I get a good sign off.